Welcome to EasyViz. In the last video, we put together a very simple dashboard. Today, we'll build on that dashboard and add a simple summary section, as well as some interactivity to the dashboard using filters. Let's get started. A good dashboard should always have a summary section up the top. That way, when you first look at it, you can immediately see the value of all your key measures. Let's go to a new sheet, and if you type measures into the search box, you'll see that Tableau automatically has two of these measure names and measure values for every data source that you create. These are going to be very handy for creating our summary. Drag your measure names into columns and drag your measure values into rows. And you can see that Tableau has automatically pulled out all of the measures in the data source and assigned their values. It's a little bit more legible if you drag the measure values into labels, and we can see the actual values of each measure. Whenever you use the measure names dimension, Tableau will automatically put it into filters. I only want to see 3 of my measures, so I'm going to edit that filter and I'm going to select count of orders, profit, and sales. Let's format this sheet to look more like a summary. The first thing I want to do is edit this alias to change the name to order count. Next, let's remove these lines. Right click, format, go to your rows section, click this borders icon, then in the row divider, we'll make that none. Next, let's add some vertical lines to divide these measures. In columns, under cell, change that to gray. Now you can see these lines don't go all the way up to the heading. So the way I sort of work around this is I just add the measure name into text. This also gives us the added benefit of being able to completely format this cell however we like. For now, let's drag the value underneath the name. Then we'll go into formatting. We'll just center it all, make the measure value bold and slightly larger. We'll change it to center and we'll hide the title. Let's name our sheet summary. Now we can add it to our dashboard. Since we set it up really nicely, we can just simply drag summary under the title and it'll just show up. We're going to change this to not show the title. Then we will change it to fit the entire view. Now you can see it's a bit large, so we'll just scale this back down and we're going to make our title a fixed height. So that way when you scale your dashboard, the height of this title will never change. The other handy thing to show in the summary section is the date range for your data. In our case, we're going to show the minimum and the maximum order date. Drag your order date into the text section and right click it to show the exact date. Then change the aggregation to minimum. We'll expand the cell so we can actually see the date. So we don't confuse the Americans, let's change the formatting of this date. Right click, format, go to pane, and in dates, we're going to show it as a custom date with the format DDMMMYY. Let's do the same thing for the maximum date. So once again, drag your order date into text, right click, change it to exact date, right click again, and change it to aggregate on maximum. Right click format, then in pane, change it to custom, day, month, year. Next, let's add some labels to this. Click the text button, click these 3 dots, then we'll call it order date. Make that bold. We'll put a from, we'll put a to. Let's center this. Rename your sheet to date range. Now let's add it to our dashboard. So we want the date range to kind of sit on the left of this summary we made before. So we'll go to our layout and we'll drag a new horizontal section in. Let's put our date range into the horizontal section. We will remove the title and make it fit the entire view. Then let's take our summary section from before, drag it to the right of the date, and then we will unfix the width on this. Let's fix up the sizing, so make this a little bit smaller, and we'll just drag our order date to be a bit smaller. I'm going to check what's being fixed at the moment. So I do want my summary section to be variable, so it's not fixed, and I want this to be fixed, which is great. And then we're going to select the parent horizontal section, and we want that to be fixed as well. That way when you scale, this section over here that's not fixed will always scale out. This will always be a fixed width, and this entire section will always have a fixed height. So our dashboard's looking really good right now, but it's a little bit static. And what I mean is we can't really slice and dice these graphs at the moment. Say I want to just look at one particular month, or I want to look at one segment, or if I want to look at, Canada versus America. We can't really do that at the moment. And to do this, we need to introduce filters into our dashboard. Let's go to our segment section to see how these filters would work. Start with location, and we just drag it into the filter section. You can see it gives me all the values of my location that exists in the data source. We're going to select all and click OK, and the filter now appears in the filter section. To expose the filter, we right click and hit show filter. Now you can see I can interact with this filter to change the values of my visualization. I can select only Canada and it'll just show me the values for Canada. I can select only the United States and it'll just show me the values for the United States. We can add as few or as many filters as we like. It's always a good idea to give our user a few filters so they can slice and dice the data how they like. Let's add product in, and let's also add the segment in. Right click to expose the filters. And now we can see we can interact with these filters however we like. Now we're ready to add this filter to our dashboard. So select your segment, click the little triangle, go to filters, and let's add the country in. You can see Tableau always adds our filters into our dashboard, but it might just add it somewhere completely random. It's a good idea to first check out where it's added it. It's created an entire new tiled section for me for some reason, so I'm going to drag this filter out into my existing sections. So select your filter, and just right click and just drag it somewhere for now. Let's delete this entire tiled container. Let's make a little home for our filters now. So we'll go to dashboard, we'll start with the horizontal, let's just put it under the title. And we're going to put a vertical within the horizontal, which it won't let me do. So we'll have to put a placeholder there. Then we'll put in our vertical, which is where our filters are going to live. And to make that super obvious, let's put a text box in there called filters. Make it bold and we'll center it. Then inside this vertical where our filters text is, we're going to drag our filter. We're going to make it a little bit smaller. So where this placeholder is, I want to put the rest of my dashboard. So you can see the rest of my dashboard is tiled vertically. So I'm going to need a vertical section. Just make that a little bit bigger so we can see. Then let's start dragging our sections into it. I'm going to go to layout so I can select the parent containers. Drag that into the vertical. And select our next one, which is this horizontal, which we'll drag underneath here. Then we'll select our last section and we'll drag it underneath here, which it won't let me. So I'll just drag it above here and then we can just select this other horizontal and reorder it. We don't need our placeholder anymore, so we'll delete that. Let's unselect everything. Let's make our filters the correct width. And let's give our filters a different background to distinguish it. Go to layout, background, and we'll make it this light shade of gray. Now let's add our other two filters in. So we'll select our segment graph, we'll click the little triangle, and we'll go add the segment in, and we will also add in the category. And so it's a good idea to format your filters. So with the country region filter, I'm going to click this triangle and I'm going to change it to a single value dropdown. For my segment, I'm going to change it to a multi-value dropdown. And for my category, I'm going to also change that to a multi-value dropdown. Now with filters, if you drop it down and you start clicking these values, you can see it automatically applies it to this graph. But sometimes you might not want this to happen because if you have a giant data set, every time you uncheck one item, it's going to recalculate the whole dashboard. So what we're going to do is click this little triangle and go to customize and click this show apply button. That way we can make as many changes to our selection as we want and it won't refresh the dashboard until we hit the apply button. Let's clear all our filters. And you can see our filter is currently only applying to this one sheet that we added it from. We want these filters to apply to the entire dashboard. So to do this, you can click the triangle, apply to worksheets, and all using this data source. Let's do the same thing for our segment filter, apply to worksheets, all using this data source, as well as our category filter, apply to worksheet, all using this data source. Now you can see when I change these filters, it will apply it to every single visualization in our dashboard. Now our dashboard has this neat little summary section as well as these filters that the user can use to slice and dice their data however they like. In the next video, we'll introduce some more advanced filters for filtering dates, as well as show you how to dynamically select the measures. If you've liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and if you want to see anything specific, feel free to leave a comment.